Make it here. Awesome. Again, let's crack the case. Excited that you're here. We'll start with a little intro and welcome. Then we'll dive into a brief overview of Leland. We'll jump into our case workshop at the main event for the night, and end with a brief word and some Q&A. So first, just to introduce myself, I'm Nick Van Sloten. Excited to meet all of you. I received offers from McKinsey and BCG, got to final rounds with Bain, absolutely love consulting, ended up going with BCG. I have been a mentor ever since then. So I think 5 years now I've helped upwards of 60 people to land offers at top consulting firms, and would love to help you. Hope to do so tonight here. And have since jumped into the startup world and now to Leland. And briefly wanted to introduce Leland as well before we dive into the main event, and talk about cracking the case. So Leland, as you probably know, is a platform for people to connect with coaches who have the expertise to help you achieve your goals, especially as it relates to consulting. Our coaches have helped thousands of people land their dream jobs, and hundreds specifically to break into top consulting firms like McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. The way that we do that is primarily through one-on-one personalized coaching and the feedback that comes with that. As many of you know, if you've ever done a case interview, that one-on-one feedback is so critical. We also have free community events like this, as well as some on-demand content, a really robust resource library with lots of consulting skills trainings, drills, training videos, and more. But beyond that, we also have a consulting interview bootcamp. If you're prepping this summer, this is an amazing way to prepare for landing an offer this fall. We'll talk more about that later tonight, but just wanted to throw that out there. Let's dive into the case workshop and talk about how you can crack the case. So first of all, what is the case interview? What do you need to do to crack the case? Number one, the most important piece of the case is adding structure to an unstructured problem. That's what the consulting firms are testing in the case interview. And ultimately, your ability to do that, to take this really abstract issue that a company or organization might be facing and add structure to it, is the number one skill that you can and should demonstrate in the case interview. To crack the case interview is to come up with the right solution, the recommendation, as it were, that you would give to a CEO or the leader of an organization. And so creating structure to get to that is critical, and specifically leveraging the data that you receive as part of the case interview is so important. So there's so much that's going on during the case interview, though, that it's easy to forget what you're really there for, and that is to win the metagame. The metagame is they want to hire you. They're wondering, is this person someone who we would want to work with? And so you're not just trying to crunch the numbers, do the mental math, add structure. You also want to be charismatic. You also want to be someone that they want to work with. Let's see. It looks like we're still on the welcome slide. So I will go ahead and jump over to, let's see. Let me pause my share and resume it again. Let's see, can everyone see the slide there that says cracking the case interview? Awesome. Okay. Let's keep going. So the next piece of cracking the case interview, or kind of as we think about how to demonstrate that you are the person that they want to work with, is generally the introduction of the case. then the initial structure, then the analysis, and then the conclusion. We'll talk through each of these core pieces of the case, and we'll kind of dive into how you should think through the beginning, the structure, the analysis, and the conclusion. So the introduction of the case. What do you need to do while the interviewer is giving you, it's typically a 2-minute, a 1 to 2 minute prompt that's describing a company's struggle or question or problem or opportunity. The number one thing that you need to do is to listen. You should be very dialed in and focused on every word that they're saying, because the case can turn on one word. The case is often determined by, let's say, they mention that your client is a retailer and they have locations in both urban and suburban areas, and their profitability is going down. Well, guess what? They've given you a clue. Maybe urban areas are less profitable than suburban areas. They're not going to say that outright, but if you're listening carefully and you're taking notes on a piece of paper, you might be able to catch that, ask a clarifying question or a question about the case interview that will give you that insight and lead you toward the correct answer. So be very attentive to that prompt. The answer or something that leads you to crack the case is usually right there in the beginning of the case. The other pieces that you should be taking notes on beyond the initial prompt are your structure, the questions that you might have that you're going to ask the interviewer, as well as your findings or analysis. And this might be math, data insights, and other pieces of the case interview that we'll touch on. So the next piece is the structure. So you've let's say gone through, you've asked some questions about the case. So you've got a little bit of background on the issue. Now your goal is to provide a framework or a structure that will guide your analysis of the problem or opportunity that the firm faces. So as you're getting into that structure, there are a couple things that you need to know or determine before you just start listing out options or building a framework. The first thing is whether the case is interviewer-led or interviewee-led. And this differs firm to firm. So interviewer-led cases, the McKinsey is the classic example of an interviewer-led case. You are the passenger in the car. The interviewer is the driver. They are telling you, this is the question that I have for you, and your goal is to answer that question. So, of course, you want to be very attentive to the questions that they ask, but also you are only responding to the prompt that they give you. You're not trying to push the boundaries or kind of jump to something that's unrelated. You are very much, again, the passenger. With an interviewee-led case, for example, Bain is very interviewee-led. You are the driver. They'll ask you, what are your thoughts about this? And you'll put together a framework, and then they'll ask, okay, so what should we talk about first? They won't necessarily have a very guided path for you in terms of the next steps in the case, which makes it even more critical that you prioritize your structure, that you put the most important items at the top. And the in-between phase is BCG and other firms are typically not so interviewer-led or so interviewee-led. BCG is a little bit more of both, where you're kind of pushing ahead and giving suggestions or input, but again, the driver analogy, if you're driving off course, the interviewer will kind of pull you back on, which can be helpful in some scenarios. So that's interviewer-led versus interviewee-led, and a very important distinction to be aware of. The second piece is whether the case is an options case or a criteria case. So is this a case that you need to be thinking about a list of potential solutions? Options are this more of a list or a set, where criteria you're kind of evaluating a proposal. In the case, you're given, let's say, should this hotel chain buy out a location in Indonesia? And you're trying to decide yes or no. And your framework should be a set of criteria rather than a list of options, because they've already come up with a proposal. You're not saying, oh, we should look at these other hotels. So options and criteria cases are different, and their structures should be treated differently.
Hey Nick, sorry for interrupting, but I think your slides aren't changing, so
Let me see if I
if you want to
can.
restart that. I
Yeah,
can also share my screen with the slides if you'd like.
yeah, please do. That would be super helpful. I'm not sure why my slides aren't changing. Let me just stop sharing and let you jump in. I'm on the slide that says the initial structure. Awesome.
All right,
Perfect.
how's that?
Yeah, this is great. And we'll send out
Perfect.
the slides to everyone here tonight. So if you missed anything here as I've been just kind of talking at you from one slide, I'm so sorry. But hopefully the core of that is contained here. Let's go ahead and jump to the next slide. Thanks. So what is the structure? It's an organized brainstorming session with the purpose of creating a roadmap. So you should be prioritizing the issues that you want to consider, again, whether that's a list of opportunities, as in an options case, which, for example, might be which countries should our company enter next. You should be running through a list and kind of debating the core issues that you might use to decide which of those is most important. That is your structure. And this is the most difficult aspect of the case by far. Coming up with a good structure can be really difficult. Often there are what we call frameworks, or a little bit more, we often refer to it as a canned or pre-written response to a question that you'll see. So there are different frameworks for profitability. There's the 4 Ps of marketing that you might consider for a marketing case. For different types of M&A cases, there are specific frameworks. And each of those has its own nuances. But ultimately, to become a professional, to become a master of the case interview, you want to be able to come up with a custom framework. You don't want to be using something that's so canned or robotic. You want to be able to share something unique with the interviewer. So breaking down those components and then creating a roadmap for the rest of the discussion. So what are we looking at for the structure generally? There's a few things that you should include, a few things that you may not want to think about. So number one is you do want to include a hypothesis. The top of your framework, the most important thing is that you have some kind of, hey, we should start with this country, or yes, I think we should invest in this hotel. And the framework kind of drives that hypothesis or reasons why you should or shouldn't invest. The framework should also be mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. We don't have time to go into that tonight, but definitely encourage you to take a look at what resources you can find, especially on Leland and Leland Plus, about MISI. There's also a critical element of frameworks is, again, being tailored. It's not the same framework that the last candidate just gave. That kind of leads into some myths. There is not one perfect framework for every case. There are, frankly, an infinite number of frameworks or ways that you could structure the case. There ultimately is going to be a small set of the best answers, and that is your goal, to kind of get to that place. And the initial framework is also a critical part of the overall case. It's not just something that you want to talk about at the beginning and then throw away, which is what most people do with the case. Next slide, please. So the next and core pieces of the case are as follows. After that initial structure, you'll walk through several additional questions. And some of them you might come up with on your own, but by and large, you're going to be driving toward that framework that you discussed initially, and the interviewer in a lot of scenarios will be giving you some data or a couple prompts that will help you lead toward the next few questions. So the first type of question that you'll be thinking through is brainstorming. And we'll talk about each of these individually here in a moment. The second type of question that you'll be thinking about is an exhibit analysis. So that you might get a chart or some data that the interviewer will ask you to interpret or provide some interesting insights or thoughts in context of the broader case. Next, you'll be thinking about estimations. These are specifically the most common type of estimation is a market sizing, and this is the classic consulting case that you'll hear. How many golf balls can fit into a Boeing 747? That's kind of the tongue-in-cheek classic consulting case. But market sizing are often more real world, like what is the average market size of the iPhone in the United States in a given year? So we'll talk about that piece. And then finally, quantitative analysis. And there's lots of different types of questions. Again, we'll dive into these each specifically, but there's break-even analysis, profitability, and margins, and many more. Ultimately, that's you doing mental math, sharing a solution, and contextualizing it. So we'll dive into each of these, but I just want to briefly pause and introduce the boot camp that I mentioned at the beginning. This is kind of part in the mid-roll commercial, but this really is something that I think would be so valued for everyone here tonight. The consulting boot camp, if you're preparing for applying to consulting firms this fall, this is the best way that you can prep this summer. It's the boot camp begins at the end of May and goes through 4 weeks through the middle of June, Monday and Wednesday evenings at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, so after work hours. If you can't make any of the sessions, they're all recorded, but the live interaction on Zoom will be super valuable. And it really is the ultimate crash course for consulting interview prep. This is all of the things that we've just talked about: structuring, brainstorming, charts and data analysis, market sizing, and other consulting math, as well as some things that we won't touch on tonight, like the BCG case robot and the McKinsey games. All have an individual 90-minute session led by an expert that will be absolutely fabulous in terms of preparing for application. If you could go to the next slide, Izzy. So what's included in the boot camp? There's 12 hours of live expert instruction, and that is this is 8 sessions of 90 minutes with the top 1% of consulting coaches on Leland. Humble brag, myself included, I'll be doing the first session, so I'd love to see you there. But beyond that core part of the boot camp, you'll also be paired with up here in the boot camp to run cases twice a week. At a minimum, and it's really hard to find people to case with that much. So it's such a valuable community to be a part of. There's custom built assignments, take home and pre-work that you'll do. There's a one-on-one 45-minute case interview with an expert, again from Leland, as well as a consulting goals planning session with me or someone else on our team at the end of the boot camp. You'll also get access to Leland Plus, which is our consulting resource content library that has dozens of drills, skills training videos, and more. So if you were to go purchase all of this on Leland alone, it would cost over $3,000. But for everybody here on the boot camp tonight, you can actually get it for less than $700. Our normal price is $1,200 for the bundle, but we're going to do a $500 off discount for everybody here tonight. If I could go back, I would pay more than 3 times for this. Why? because I'm actually the architect of the bootcamp. I went ahead and put this together, thinking about everything I wish I'd had for my consulting recruiting. So what I want you to do, just briefly, jump in, go to this link, bit.ly/MBB prep, enter your contact info. One person here tonight is going to win free admission to the bootcamp. And again, this is a super valuable and awesome way to prep for the summer. When you enter your information, you'll get a text from me at my number. I actually have a friend on my team who's frantically sending out texts here with the link to the discount code as well. So everyone will get the discount code there. And the first 20 people to sign up right now will get 2 entries to win free admission. So definitely jump in and apply. You'll get a free refund if you buy now and win the discount and win the admission, or if you decide to change your mind before the boot camp. So there's no risk to enroll now. Just jump in, and if you're applying this year, this is an absolutely amazing way to go forward. I know we've got some interest in the chat and some questions about the boot camp. Let's talk about the let's talk about that at the end of tonight. I'll have some Q&A, and we'll announce the giver of the winner of the bootcamp giveaway. But again, would love to see all of you there. Let's jump on and talk about the rest of cracking the case. So the next piece that you need to consider as far as cracking the case, brainstorming. This is creating a list of ideas or hypotheses that are insightful, relevant to solving a given problem. So let's see, it looks like the slides are going a little wonky here. Oh, there we are. So a great brainstorming example might be, how could McDonald's diversify its revenue? What new revenue streams could McDonald's be thinking about? So for you, during the case, you're going to be kind of asking yourself this question. Typically, I would ask the interviewer for 10 to 20 seconds to pause and think through, okay, what are 5 or 6 ideas? And again, I recommend taking time to come up with those ideas before you just start listing off, oh, McDonald's should do this, this, and that. The reason being is that you can actually add some structure. You don't want your brainstorm to just be so off the cuff or a pure list. It's really helpful to actually have a little bit of structure within these short brainstorming questions. Let's jump on. So the brainstorming process is first to categorize. So let's take this question: how could McDonald's diversify its revenue? There's typically, the easiest way to brainstorm is creating 2 high-level buckets. So let's say there's new revenue streams for McDonald's in terms of non-food, and there's new revenue streams for McDonald's in terms of food-related. So those are my 2 categories for my brainstorming question. Then for each category, I'll come up with 2 to 3 examples. So let's say for food for McDonald's, McDonald's could sell cheap food like tacos. They could sell expensive food, and they could sell specialty drinks like boba tea. That's food related. Then on the non-food related side, they could sell real estate. McDonald's has a lot of real estate. They could sell merch, and they could sell maybe some IP, maybe do some brand partnerships or something like that. So I just came up with, and I'm talking out loud, so it's a little bit slower. Ultimately, that's going to be like a 10-second thought process for you as you're brainstorming. You come up with those categories, those 2 categories, 3 ideas each, and then you'll present to the interviewer like so. So as I think about this, there are 6 ways that McDonald's can diversify its revenue. There are food-related ways and non-food-related ways. Under the food-related category, A, B, and C, non-food-related category, A, B, and C. That type of delivery in terms of structured communication makes a very strong impact on the interviewer. Most people, when they do brainstorming questions, are just, well, McDonald's could do this, and then maybe they could do that. Adding structure is the core of cracking the case interview. So again, this is definitely something that I would recommend that you implement. So the next piece of the case interview, exhibit analysis. So you'll get some kind of chart, table, graphic, and the interviewer will ask you a question like, how would you think about this? Or what insights can you glean from this chart or graphic? There ultimately are a few different ways that you can answer this type of question, but you should, in any event, you should ask for 10 to 20 seconds to take some time, gather some insights, and provide a structured response to the interviewer. If you take nothing else away from what we're talking about in terms of cracking the case, my number one piece of feedback is to ask for time with every question. Don't just launch into an answer. Your answers, even just by taking that short few seconds, will be much better than the next person who doesn't ask for time. So briefly kind of diving into some examples of what this might look like. Take a look at this chart of comparing different countries Amazon can expand to. Tell me what sticks out to you. So you might be looking at a map, right? Or what countries does this bar chart of revenue per region tell you that you're underperforming? So sometimes the questions are more specific than just give me some insights. But ultimately, they're looking for, when you see data, how do you react to it? So the next piece of analysis that you'll do in a given case is typically quantitative analysis. So consulting math. This is almost always mental math. So you'll be given some numbers, a problem, and you'll need to solve it. Often the numbers will be, especially in first rounds, the numbers will be relatively easy, not necessarily super easy, but they sometimes will require some rounding. And working with a coach or coming to the boot camp, you'll learn a lot more about how to go through the math. But here are some of the equations that you'll need to know. Revenue and cost. Revenue is quantity times price. Cost is fixed cost plus variable costs. Those are, I would say, some of the core most important equations. All of the rest of these are very important as well, and you can take a look at the slides after the event. So the next piece of analysis that you should be thinking about is estimations. And again, the most common type of estimation is sizing a market. This is similar to the quantitative analysis in that it's a math question, but you actually don't have numbers for most or all of the core pieces of the equation that you need to solve. So an estimation is a scenario in which you are actually going through and giving an assumption about, oh, I think that there are X number of people in the United States who buy soccer balls. Let's say you're sizing the market for soccer balls. That's a major assumption that you're going to make, but you want to do it based on core pieces of data. So you might have the population of the United States. Then you'll make an assumption and say, I think that of people in the United States ages 1 to 80, there are 30% of them that are playing soccer. And then of those who are playing soccer, how many of them own a soccer ball? What percentage are you going to assume there? You'll be talking very directly with the interviewer, kind of getting feedback on these thoughts as you go through this analysis. So the core elements of a good estimation are appropriate assumptions, quick math, and clear communication. You should be sharing everything with the interviewer. Never should you be putting your head down and crunching numbers without talking. That is one of the most common mistakes that I see in estimations and in the quantitative analysis generally, that people just try and do the math problem on their own and then spit out the result to the interviewer. If you're wrong, it's very hard for the interviewer to critique you at that point. And they also don't know your thought process. They're less likely to consider you an intelligent person, even if you get the right answer. If you're walking through the math out loud, it's a very powerful way to show the interviewer your thought process. So quick question from the chat. What happens if your math is wrong or slightly off? How is that viewed? I would say that the answer, classic consulting answer, is it depends. It depends particularly on how you respond when the interviewer tells you that your math is off. You need to be gracious and not get flustered is the number one thing. Maintaining charisma and confidence is so key. I actually had a math mess up in my first McKinsey interview, and I was honestly surprised that I got a final round interview because of that. And I asked the interviewer about it, and she said, well, you recovered quickly and well, and you had a great structure. So if your math is wrong, but you recover well and you perform in other aspects of the case, you can actually make up for it. Again, my experience is living proof of that. But you definitely need, if you are communicating very clearly and directly with the interviewer, the likelihood that your math is wrong is much lower. The most common mistake I see is adding or removing a zero from, say, a million. So definitely keep track of the zeros there. Let's jump forward to just kind of talk through the process of estimations. First thing you'll do is to clarify the scope. The second is to structure the formula. So you'll kind of put together these are the variables that I need to solve, let's say, the market size of iPhones in the United States. You'll then assign values. So I think that the percentage of people in the US who own an iPhone is X%. You'll make a calculation, and then you'll check and interpret the answer. And this is the piece that everyone forgets, is that the right answer is not just the market size is $100 billion a year. What does that mean? Is that good? Is that bad? Is that profitable or unprofitable? You need to tell the interviewer more than just a number. You need to give context. So let's say you find out that that is 50% of Apple's revenue. You might say that's actually concerning because Apple is relying so heavily on the iPhone, and if sales ever dip within that one product line relative to other revenue streams, they're going to be hurting as a company. So whether a number is good or bad all depends on the context of the problem, and that's something to definitely stay aware of. So one kind of just general set of tips for any type of analysis, whether it's brainstorming, estimations, or other. Structure is key. You need never just go off the cuff and just start sharing things out of your head. Give some kind of a high level, like we talked about with brainstorming, a little bifurcation or two category structure, or some kind of framework to respond to the data insights question. Stay calm, don't get flustered. It's really easy to do that in an interview. The antidote, frankly, is reps. Doing lots more cases makes it much easier in a live interview to be calm and collected. Like I mentioned, always ask for 10 seconds. Never directly answer a question unless they say, no, I just want to hear your thoughts directly. And then finally, be concise. It's really easy especially in a high pressure situation like the consulting interview to just start blabbing on and sharing all of your thoughts about every aspect of the question, restating things that you've already said. And the true sign of intelligence is being able to clearly and concisely express ideas, at least in a consulting interview. So now thinking about the end of the case, what's going on after you've done all this analysis, all of it should lead up to a final recommendation. And this is if you were to pitch the CEO of your client. So if I were to pitch the CEO of McDonald's on how to diversify their revenue, let's say maybe that was the core case, I would say, I think McDonald's should sell merch. That's a very clear, concise recommendation. You shouldn't beat around the bush and spend a lot of time leading up to it. Give a one sentence, this is what the company should do. then give 2 or 3 sentences explaining why the let's say merch is the core recommendation, because merch is high margin, because merch, we found that there's a large market size for merch in the United States that McDonald's could sell to. Pull from those prior analyses that you've done. Then you'll state possible risks. So let's say your recommendation is merch. Well, what are some possible risks? Number one, McDonald's would have to incur high fixed costs. They perhaps would have to buy or lease a factory to sell this merch. And we're maybe uncertain that X% of people would actually want McDonald's clothes. So that's a possible risk. And you always want to recognize a risk. No matter how good you think your recommendation is, you've just spent at most 25 minutes thinking through this problem. You're not going to know everything about it. And the consulting interviewer is going to want to see that you know your ideas are not necessarily the best. So then from the risks, you should move forward into next steps to mitigate those risks. So for example, let's start by creating t-shirts at 10 McDonald's locations, and contracting with a company that already has a factory to do it. A pilot like that is usually a great next step suggestion. But ultimately, this final recommendation, potential risks, and next steps, this is a type of structure or a framework that you should always use for your final recommendation. This is industry standard. Every consultant is used to hearing this framework, and so your job is just to deliver it well. You shouldn't try and come up with something super creative for the conclusion. Really quick to respond to one question in the chat: how much time should you spend for each section in the framework? That it really depends on the case. Some frameworks are really profitability heavy, and you should spend most of the time there. Some cases are more heavy on the market. Some are pretty evenly distributed. So unfortunately, there's not a super great answer to that one. And you don't want to be robotic in your case. Yeah, it depends. That's exactly right. So to tie it all together, to crack the case interview, you need to create a prioritized structure to solve a more ambiguous problem. And this isn't just the high level structure or framework. This is every single aspect of the analysis itself. You also should leverage the data that you're getting across the case to make that ultimate recommendation. And don't forget don't forget that you're trying to win the metagame. You are trying to show the interviewer that you're a good fit to be a consultant at their firm. It's ultimately you're not just trying to answer the questions. You're trying to show them that you're someone they want to work with. Izzy, if you could jump to the next slide here. So that's kind of the core of cracking the case. I know I went through it all so quickly. There are so many aspects of each of these parts of analysis that you need to be thinking about. You're going to have to spend hours and hours on each portion of the case to truly succeed. Izzy, if you could jump to the next slide here. And again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but the Consulting Interview Bootcamp is an amazing way to do that, and I highly recommend that you jump on. I'd love to take a couple questions here in the chat about the bootcamp. For anyone who's interested and wants to win the giveaway, definitely stay on. We'll announce the giveaway winner here at the end of the Q&A section. But for everyone else, thanks so much for joining. On the bootcamp specifically, who is the bootcamp good for? You're finishing up your sophomore year. Great question. Sophomores and juniors in particular who are applying for internships and full-time roles in the fall, this boot camp is tailored for you. If you're a freshman and you're looking to get ahead, especially if you're applying to some of the more niche programs, very much recommend that you jump into the boot camp as well. Experienced hires could be helpful, but again, sophomores, juniors, and potentially rising and potentially seniors could benefit strongly from the boot camp. If you can't make all the sessions, great question. All of them will be recorded. We don't expect everyone to be there at every single session, but I really recommend that you sign up anyway and still take part in, of course, in all the homework and other assignments that you're given there. Leland does, we try to do a UK equivalent. We would pair you in the boot camp with a UK case partner. And the Zooms that are too late for you, we'll definitely send the recording. But the one-on-one case time and all of that will be we'll make sure to cater to your time zone. Is this good for MBA students? Absolutely. I guess I said rising juniors and seniors. This is absolutely for MBA students coming into their second year of MBA, or MBA students in their second year going on and looking to recruit at consulting firms. The bootcamp will help. We absolutely can help revise your resume. You can use your time with the pro consultant to do some resume work as well. I see some questions about experienced hires and workers. Absolutely. If you don't have as much consulting interview experience, this is a great way to get it. You'll be able to go through and go zero to hero in terms of every single aspect of the case that we've talked about tonight, along with more like the BCG case robot, as I mentioned. Someone asked, after the end of the semester, I won't be able to practice with friends in person anymore. The bootcamp is definitely a great place to do that. We'll be matching everyone with a partner, and you'll actually be, as part of the bootcamp, casing with a partner twice a week at a minimum. We also have a Slack community with the bootcamp that you'll be participating in. It looks like we have a question. What all is included in the bootcamp? You can definitely take a look here at this link. Once you fill out that sign up form, you'll get a link that goes through everything. But just to hit on the high level, there's 12 hours of instruction with the top coaches on Leland. So that's 8 90-minute sessions. There's also the 8 hours of case prep or more with a peer case partner, a one-on-one case session with an expert consultant, where you'll be implementing a lot of the things that you learn in the bootcamp, as well as several other kind of perks. We're again a summer planning session with myself or someone else on the Leland team. There's also the Leland Plus content library. Again, dozens of drills, skills trainings, videos are included, and will be super powerful for you, as well as kind of building your network and community, especially with the coaches in the bootcamp. What university students usually get success with Leland? We actually have seen people land offers at top consulting firms from all different types of universities and backgrounds. Myself, I'm from BYU, not a target university, but working with mentors was absolutely the key for me to see success. And a boot camp like this, again, this is everything I wish that I'd had. I went and got all this experience, but it took me years of work and cold networking to try and connect with coaches and all of this. And let's see, all the sessions, some, again, we do have a one-on-one session, but a lot of it will be cohort-based, which is super powerful. You'll actually go into breakout rooms in a lot of the sessions and run a drill with different case partners, which will be really helpful. Coursework absolutely can be used for portfolio projects. And we can talk more specifically about that. Send me a text. Again, if you fill out this link here, you'll actually get a text from me. I have a team member sending texts out here, and I'd love to answer any questions you have individually tonight. If you're looking at one-on-one coaching with a specific Leland coach, that's absolutely great. We actually have a package where if you want to do the bootcamp and one-on-one coaching together, would love to help you get set up with that. So shoot me a text about it. These slides will be emailed for sure. And let's see, dates and times of the bootcamp starts May 27th, goes through June 19th. So 4 weeks, Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific time. Again, if let's say you're on vacation one of the days or can't make it, everything will be recorded. And we can definitely work on time zone as well. If you have any time zone issues, definitely shoot me a text. Let's see. When will the next bootcamp be after this? Great question. I think we'll be having one sometime late fall, but if you're applying this year to consulting firms, I highly recommend doing the summer bootcamp. Great question here. If we can only do the bootcamp or the coaching package, which would you recommend? I would definitely say that I would start at least with the bootcamp. Because you're going to build a lot of foundational skills working with these coaches. All of these sessions are kind of the core of what you need to crack the case. So again, yeah, I would start with the boot camp. And you may find that you need additional one-on-one coaching beyond the one-on-one coaching that you'll get with the boot camp here. So let's see. Last question. Do you have experience helping people get into consulting in Hong Kong or China? Absolutely. We actually have someone joining our team this fall who's at McKinsey Beijing this summer, which is super exciting, and we have a great depth of experience there. So would love to work with you. Again, any more questions, please shoot me a text. Would love to help and answer any questions you have. At this point, I think we've got a giveaway winner. Let me jump in and take a look. Awesome. Okay. The giveaway winner, let's see, can you see the winner slide here? The winner is awesome. Sorry, I'm sure you're on the edge of your seats. Annie. At ASU. Annie, we're super excited to have you at the boot camp. It's going to be absolutely fabulous to see you there. And for everyone else, we're so glad that you were here. And again, would love to give you that exclusive discount. It expires tonight, so definitely jump in and enroll. If you need financial aid or a discount, please shoot me a text and I'll send you. We have a little financial aid form. But by and large, I think that hopefully we've answered a lot of the questions here, and you're ready to go. Shouldn't be any risk to enroll tonight. Feel free to reach out to me, text or email. Super excited for all of you to dive in and crack the case. And again, thanks so much for being here tonight. Quick question I see, where do we get the $500 discount? The code will be sent to you. If you don't see that code, reply. I'm going to send an email out later tonight with the recording. So definitely reply there and I'll just shoot you the code there. And yeah, again, super excited to see all of you again at the boot camp. I'll be leading the first session and can't wait.